Welcome to Pull by Design Day 3, the method to find product market fit, brought to you by Diego and Potencia Ventures. Today we're going to talk about the perfect fit. But first, let's do a quick recap. We say that we tend to focus on a competitor and we build things that make the experience better. And we believe that is a 10x and that customers will love it. But they still have some objections. So we build that too. Just to get a, yeah, I'm still not sure about it. When we hear that, we know that is because they are an OK or a switching CI. So we should forget about this and focus on desperate CIs that will switch to us because they have no alternative, they have an inability, but they also have blockers. Like in the case that we saw, like training videos for people that don't have experience. That is going to create a perfect product. But there is a situation here, right? Because we have like things that we have to build, like features to solve blockers. But you can also say, hey, Diego, Zoom also has things that people want, right? Like they have the chat and drawing features and integrations with other tools. So on top of this, you are thinking, yeah, I also need features to get parity with the default solution. And what about this? It's like, yeah, I know that you are telling me to turn that off, but they're kind of cool, right? And they deliver extra value, so that's good, right? So let's recap everything that we could build. Sound problem. Okay. So we have the core functionality. That is, in this case, video call apps. Then we have the things that we build as initial differentiators versus Zoom. On top of that, we have the things that we believe we can build to get parity with the default solution. And the cool things. And the features to solve blockers for the desperate CIs. So it's like we have this multicolor thing of things that we can build. What I'm trying to represent with this is you have right now like a roadmap, a lot of features there. It feels like the product can go in any direction. You have customers like pulling you in these different directions, asking you for one thing or the other thing, things that you could build just because they are cool and everyone is adding that, like AI. So that when we face this question that is like, okay, what should I build next? Like it feels like really, really stressful. And why is that? This happens because our current mental model about the situation is that it's all about value, right? Where we want to choose what is the feature, the next feature that adds more value. And then keep stacking more and more features so we deliver so much value that people will kind of be forced to switch to us. That we can summarize into more is better. And that's what we believe. Now, what I'm going to prove today is that more is not better, but also less is not necessarily better. Fit is better. Not too big, not too small. So today, let's see if I should build everything that we put in the rainbow map. If not, why not? And what should I build first? And for that, we will use the idea of the perfect fit. So let's start with features and value. We ended our stint as CEOs of Whereby, and now we are the CEOs of Expensify. What is Expensify? It's an expense reporting tool where you take a photo of the expenses, like the employees, and then the company can pay back to you. To simplify our scenario, we just launched Expensify. So it's not the Expensify of today. So that means we are non-default. And nobody did anything like that. So the default solution that every company is using right now is just sending The employees send an email with photos of the receipts, and that's it. We have a challenge. That is, our conversion rate from free trial to subscription is too low. It seems like people are curious, they try, but something is not working. So our question, based on our current mental model, well, what should we build next to add more value? So when they are doing the free trial, they see all that value is like, okay, I'm in, right? And to try to understand that, we start asking like prospect customers, like accounting managers that did the free trial but are not subscribing. Is like, tell me, what are you missing so you will subscribe? Because, yeah, like, I don't see you subscribing. And after talking with a lot of users, they kind of found two big groups. One that is asking for, yeah, I have a lot of these Uber like photos or screenshots. If you can integrate with their app, so when the employee just takes an Uber, it's automatically added, that will solve us like a big problem. That can make us subscribe. Makes sense. There is another group that is asking for something completely different. It's like, yeah, what I need is a reminder because I'm tired of chasing employees to send me the receipts. Like, remember, I am the accounting manager. So the question is, what do we do here? Do we build both? Which one first? And if I put all of you in a room to discuss this, we will have probably an endless internal debate. We will think about which one adds more value, if it's a nice to have or a must have, which one is faster or it will have more impact, or like this. So let's try to map that with the tools that we have right now. There is the customer instance map, but now instead of one instance, two columns, I'm simplifying and just having one column. And I have the task, both have the same task, report expenses. They use the same current solution, the email with photos attached. But one group wants an easy way to report expenses and the Uber integration, and the other one, an easy way to report expenses and reminders. Now, this is how we see the world right now before using the full CI map. And with this, you can't make a decision. It's like you will have that endless debate. So we should ask something critical. That is, can you please tell me why? Why do you want that feature? But I understand the logic that you have a lot of Uber receipts. I want to understand that deeper. I want to know everything that is going on. So you need that now and you didn't need that before, or what's happening here? We want to go deeper with this. That will lead us to the solution. And now we know that that is context. So it's like, tell me more. Tell me your story. It's like, yeah. So I'm processing like around 100 receipts a month, where what we have is a big office, and the office supplies, that is usually a big source of expenses, that is centralized. I make a big order, one single receipt, that is okay. But I have 5 salesmen doing visits, and they create a ton of expenses. Most of them are Ubers and some lunches. So if you process that, that will be great because that is a lot of work. Like, but tell me, can you really like do the task? Like, do you have are you unable to do something? It's like, no, I can. But I have these people, these salesmen complaining all the time that they have to report these things, that there are like too many receipts, that they don't have time for that because they have to prepare the next meeting, that why they have to do like accounting if they are salespeople. So I have these people complaining here, and I want to get rid of that complaint. Like I just want like to automate that and forget about it. It's like, oh, so then you are an okay CI. You don't have any inability. You just have some pain, some people complaining. But that is most likely not enough to get you to switch, because switching will imply a lot of extra work from your side to this new platform, train them, what if they don't like it? So that is the group A. Group B, tell me more, tell me your story. It's like, you know, we went from 25 to 100 receipts a month. So see how, because I just have one column, I'm condensing the context change there. So the past and the present. It's like, okay, tell me like why that changed? Why suddenly you have 4x volume? It's like, oh, true. So we used to be in a single office with centralized office supplies, just 25 receipts a month, but now we started hiring a lot of remote employees, which means I have 20 people that are buying like small, medium, and big stuff from their neighborhoods, uh, different retailers. So what I have is no Ubers because I don't have people traveling. What I have is 95% of these receipts come from a lot of different small providers. It's like, okay, that's interesting. But remember, we want to go deep, see the implications of this. It's like, so, but can you do the accounting? It's like, no, not really. I have two problems. One problem is the volume that I have right now. But I have even a bigger problem. I'm unable to get all the company expenses before due date because all these people keep forgetting about that. Why? Because each single employee just buy once, twice, and then 2 months without buying anything, and then again twice. They don't have a habit, they don't have a process, they don't have anything. So they forget. And I need to have like the proper monthly accounting because that can change the numbers a lot. So that person is truly desperate because she has an inability. And now with this picture, will you build both or which one first? Well, at least we know that first is gonna be the reminders. That's a fact. You can still think, hey, but the Uber thing is kind of cool, right? Let's see if it's cool or not. So when we think about our segments before we started using this, usually what we have is this broad definition, the target customer or ideal customer profile. That is like companies that report expenses, at least 20 employees, or they don't have enough expenses, but not more than 100 because if not, they use some professional tool. Usually they have salespeople or they have offices. That means they have significant amount of expenses. And we are not even aware of this idea of inability. So somebody like this would look okay because, yeah, they fit into this description, but in reality, we know that they're not going to switch. If I don't say this, I explode. How many of these are going to switch to us? Very, very few. But we are talking about product. So will these features, let's check some features, will add more value and what are the implications of that? So of course, they need the core functionality, like report expenses with the photo app. That is the easy way to report expenses. Okay, both love that. But like, yeah, before hearing them, we were working on something that made a lot of sense to us. That is, okay, they are reporting the expenses. The accounting manager has now all the expenses, but let's connect that with accounting so they can finish like the VAT report and all of that. What will these guys think? So the group A will think, look, I don't need any integration. I have a process for that. I am already doing the whole thing. I don't need anything new here. I'm good. What I need is for you to help me to get rid of the complaints of the salespeople. So they don't care about this. And what about group B? It's like, look, my problem is not that. I was doing that before. My problem is that I don't receive them on time. Help me solve that, and then we talk about other things. So they also don't care. A feature that makes a lot of sense on paper is not adding anything. What about the Uber integration? Okay, this is what these guys are asking for. But what about group B? It's like, look, I don't really care either. But why is this thing red? Because something happens. they will tell you, look, do you have a plan that doesn't have the software, the tax software integration and the Uber integration? Because we don't need that. So I don't know why I should overpay for that. The thing is, any unneeded feature creates a blocker. Two types of blockers. One, everything that you have there makes the product more difficult to understand and more difficult to use, harder to learn, which has several significant implications on activation. But also, just in terms of conversion to subscription, when I look at your price and I see that half of the features are never going to be used, I will think maybe I can find another product that just has the half that I want, and they will leave and search for that. So they look cool on paper and we think that they can add value, when in reality, they become a blocker. But this can get even worse, because what about the reminders? This is what they're asking for. But if we tell the accounting manager of companies of the group A, we also have reminders, so you don't have to chase them. 5 days before you have to report expenses, we will auto send them a notification. It's no. I have these people complaining. Every time that they think about accounting, they hate it. And now you want them to feel even more chased with these notifications that are telling them to do this thing and chasing them constantly? It's look, if you have that, I'm out. Some features straight add negative value. They reduce the value of the product. And if you think that this is an extreme example. I recently worked with a company that had a group chat so all the users could interact there. They thought that that was a key feature and that added a lot of value. And it's true that for some, it worked. But when they started talking with people that were churning, it's they hated the chat, because what they saw there is some people succeeding at the thing that the app does, and they were stuck and not making progress, and that made them really, really anxious. That group chat was a killer for some people. So this is a very real possibility. So let's go back to our rainbow here. And now we know that unneeded features create blockers. And some features can go even worse and add negative value. So clearly, more is not better. And usually that is reflected in this type of features. So let's continue. Features and positioning. Now, when the customer is facing your product, he has a key question. That is this for people like me, in my situation? So if I don't have experience with this type of products, that question it will be, is this for beginners like me? And if I have a lot of experience, is this for pros? Okay. If you are Canva, a photo editing app, and you want to target beginners, what you want people to say about you is, this is the perfect tool for beginners. That is called positioning. Now, positioning is not something that you do. Positioning is what people think about you. So the perception that they have about you. And we want them to have the perception to say, when they're talking with others, yeah, Canva is the perfect tool for beginners. So if you're targeting these people and people are saying that, this connects. And if you are Photoshop and you want to go for pros, what you want people to say is this is the tool that professionals use. This is it. This is the real deal. So it will connect. And this is pretty straightforward, right? If we are going for these people, we want to do this thing. Now, how do we achieve this positioning? How do we get there? Remember, we will do things so people say something. Now, we believe that if we just say so, then it's true, right? Look at this tool. I was looking for the best photo editing tools for beginners. One of the first results, their own page, the title, best photo editing software for beginners. So it's okay, they say so that should be true. But then I click. Okay, Doesn't look like super friendly for beginners, but it's okay. It's like, let me scroll down. And I am expecting to see something simple, just a few features like, holy shit. Like, what is this? Like, so these are the features that you have? And if I keep scrolling down, I find this. This is screaming everything but beginners. Like, this is a nightmare. Like, so no, that's not the right way to do it. Now, let's see a better way to do it. Is this for beginners? And I see this is like, okay, so this is Canva. Look at the sections. Layout, text, background. So you upload a photo and then you can, or more, you can reorganize them, add text, add more background things. That's it. We have here a guy. Why? Because this is a video from 8 years ago, 2015, when Canva was launched. Look at this. Look at what is not here. A lot of things. There are no filters, no layers, no complicated things. Because what you don't have says a lot about who are you for. And this whole thing is telling me, yeah, this looks like for beginners. I understand everything. It seems like I'm going to be able to use it even if I never used this before, like any photo editing tool. So this is great. But careful with something, because if you go to Canva now, they had 8 years to build stuff. A lot of it. But if you look at reviews like pretty recent, people still talk like, yeah, it's intuitive and user-friendly. I mean, it has a few more things that it had in the past. If this person would have seen the 8 years ago version, that would be like, oh, that is incredibly easy. But once you earn a reputation, and Canva always built at the beginning and kept it like that reputation of like, this is the tool for beginners, this is super easy to use, that will stay with you for a really long time unless you completely redesign everything. So don't confuse how you build your positioning, what you have to do. In the case of Canva, it was like the opposite of all the other tools out there in terms of simplicity. With the things that you can do later with that positioning, yeah, they leverage that and keeping somewhat simple design, they kept adding more and more and more things, and people still remember that. That has a problem. If now you think I have to be like that company and they are like the easy to use one, and you look at the features that they have, you are going for something that is not simple. It's the evolution of something that was simple and that reputation, and today is something different. Which means that we will have problems with parties. So what you don't have says a lot about you. Who are you for? And don't confuse how you build the positioning with what you can do later. Two things here. The first is, but Diego, you are talking about positioning here, feels like marketing, acquisition. We were talking about product. I'm kind of confused here. The thing is, product is marketing. I mean, literally, is one of the 4 P's of marketing. So we can't think in terms of, yeah, I have the marketing team and they try to build people to the free trial, and then I have the product team and they have to build features to add value. Then the whole thing is misaligned. You want to decide who is my desperate CI, what is what they need in terms of features, but also like how do we achieve that positioning, how that product talks to them, and that has implications on product too. We can't split them. So no, there is no talk about product and not talk about marketing. It's the same thing. And with that, what we learned is that less is not necessarily better. It's like, Diego, you just say that what you don't have says a lot. It's like, yes, which doesn't mean that less is better. You want to know what your positioning is or should be. And then if you want to be like for beginners, then you will have less. But if you want to be for pros, then you will need to scream to the wall like this other tool that is for pros. But there are tools out there that make the opposite error. It's like, we are the best solution to do X. You check it, it's like, but you are missing most of the features that the good ones have, which is the reverse problem. So it's not about more, it's not about less, it's about having the right thing. So don't look at the competitors. Just because they have a feature, it doesn't matter. Your positioning can be different. And even if it's the same positioning, yeah, what you're seeing is the evolved version of them. So careful with the parity thing. Last, features and fit. So let's go back to our group B that we're asking for reminders. Now let's move this thing to one side. So we have our CA map and the thing that they are like expecting and talking about. And one big question, how does this context affect these features? And to do that, we're going to use the perfect fit map, where we summarize the CI on top, and then we have the context here. Remember, when we are looking at the context, the important thing is what is the constraint that this context creates. Now, this person has two major problems. One is increased volume. She went from 25 to 100. So right now, she can't process each email separately as she was doing before. Like, she needs to do some automation. So she will need extra functionalities that can be a feature or a service. Report expenses with photos that are auto-assigned to each employee is the functionality that helps her manage that. Okay. But each feature can be built in 10 different ways. In this example, they have to take a photo. So if we call feature characteristics the different ways that we can build that feature, you can decide to use the native camera. They take a photo and it's stored in the gallery, and then in the app, you just pick from the gallery. Or you can have an in-app camera that comes within your app. And both have pros and cons, and you have to make that decision. Now, let's see an example where this decision is tricky. She has a second problem. One is volume, but the second one is that employees keep forgetting because they have one or two receipts. And they don't take the photo, and eventually they lose the receipt. And then they are angry because they are not being paid back because they lost the receipt because nobody reminded them. So how do you deal with that? Okay, reminders. And we will give that to the development team. It's like, yeah, we need also reminders for the accounting manager so she doesn't have to chase everyone. And the developer will think, okay, let's send a monthly push notification to all the users, all the employees, 5 days before like she has to report expenses, so everyone like just sends everything. Makes sense? Look at this again. The problem is not only remind them. The problem is that if a long time passes, they lose the receipt. So monthly is too late. Monthly is not going to work. But if that developer doesn't have this context and understands the constraints that come with it, he will build this that makes sense on paper when you don't have the context in mind. What about a weekly push with email? Okay. So now we think they are going to forget, but now we are going to send them a push notification. They see that in the phone. They will discard that so they can still forget. But then they have an email that is in their inbox that acts kind of as a secondary, more permanent reminder. And that is happening every week. So it should be kind of top of mind during the whole month, this idea that if you have an expense reported, you are always being noticed. That can work much better until they build a habit and they will ignore this. So why do I have all these arrows here? It's just to represent that this whole chain is connected. But the important thing is both extremes. Having the feature is not enough. Remember, it's having the functionality that can be a feature or a service. Before, it was a service, the service of the accounting manager sending emails to everyone, right? Now she wants to replace that by a feature, but just the feature is not enough. The reminders built the wrong way are not going to work. So the feature has to be built in a way that the user can do the task under this context. So solves the inability. Remember, the inability is what is created when the context changes and the solution that you have breaks. Now we have to align it again. So coming back here, having the functionality is not enough, which means there are things that we built at the beginning before we understood really who our customer is, that maybe we built them the wrong way. We have the right feature with the wrong feature characteristics. So we also don't want that. So we end up just with the core functionality, what helps you do the task, and the things that are blockers for the CI. And that is what we should build next. The minimum amount that allows a desperate CI to complete the task under the context and remove the inability. And that's it. Because if we add more, we create problems. If we have less, we can also create problems. So now I can conclude using this overused word that is paradigm shift. That means an important change that happens when the usual way of thinking about or doing something is replaced by a new one. What is the old one? That we can build all these things, and it's really, really stressful because we don't know what to do next, and there are like an infinite number of paths. And that happens because we believe it's all about value, find the feature that delivers more value, and stack a lot of them. So more is better. Now, that is the old way of thinking about it. And the paradigm shift is our perfect fit map, where we recognize that it's all about fit, that the functionality fit. So the product does what the CI needs, not more, not less. And again, because this is really ingrained in us, it's like, yeah, but why not more? Like, people love extra things. They will want a surprise. Yeah, but people also love not to overpay for 20 features that they don't need. And people also love a product that they can learn to use really quick. Not that they need to read like a 50-page manual or have like 10 emails with instructions to learn how to use it. And every additional feature creates that. So not more, but also not less. With feature characteristic fit, that is, you not only have the right features, but you have them built the right way based on the context that they have. And with positioning fit, so when that CI sees our product, it's like, oh yeah, this is for people like me. So fit is better. Not too big, not too small. Thank you very much. Quick challenge. So what are we gonna do? A perfect fit map. Just pick the desperate CI that you prepared last week, put the context here, and fill like the summary here, and then start thinking, what are the constraints that this context creates? What are the functionalities needed with that, and how do I have to build them? All of that in pool.tips/day3 challenge. Remember, it's a Google Docs, so top menu, file, make a copy, and you're good to go.